Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Andrew Schatkin Show. This is a show for people who want to hear what I see as the facts and the truth. I'm not going to cover it. I'm not engaged in a cover-up on anything I talk about. And I welcome people factually and truthfully informing me. I value that quality. I respect it, and that's what I think is the best way to live your life. Honestly, truthfully, factually. And I'm not prepared to lie about just about anything, Mr. Stone. Okay? So you might say that, but however you want to put it, you know. Kevin Stone, why don't you tell the audience here, which includes a lot, by the way, I did tell you, includes a lot of Arab countries, a lot of African countries, India, all kinds of places. Sri Lanka, they checked in the other day. Sri Lanka checked in, and Myanmar checked in. So anyway, go ahead, Kevin. Start the conversation and talk a little about what you've been doing with your life up to now.
Fantastic. Well, first of all, Andrew, I want to say and compliment you on your being candid and just getting down to the truth of what really is and letting people really decide for themselves what is truth and what is not to themselves. And, you know, this is why I do these programs, just to really educate, uplift, and inspire people to show them what I do and how they can empower their lifestyles with the applications of hypnosis. Now, as you know, I'm known internationally. I'm a renowned expert. I'm known as the Hollywood Hypnotist Kevin Stone. I'm a master hypnotist. I'm America's most trusted and awarded hypnotist. You might have seen me on many television shows like MTV, Tyra Banks,
Yes, I have seen you. I think I've seen you, Kevin, and I think it's fantastic that you've acquired this tremendous it's tremendous reputation. I think that's fantastic. So why don't you tell the audience here, if you can, Kevin, I don't mean to interrupt you, but go on and tell them how you became a hypnotist and how it came about and what you've been doing in terms of that work. And explain it to me.
Absolutely. Well, I got into hypnosis because I had a need in my own personal life where there was issues in my life that I couldn't control, and I didn't have tools or modalities to do that, Andrew. And I thought, well, you know, I always had an interest in hypnosis as a small boy. And there was a college here in Los Angeles, California, that's the only accredited college in the world. And I thought, well, let me go back into school to learn something that I have a fascination about, and I'm going to get college credit to work on my degrees. What better way to do that? It's a win-win. And so I go in, I learn the program. Now, mind you, going in, I was a skeptic. I was on the other side of the fence of all of this. I just didn't really believe in what was happening, not only with my own eyes, because I'm an analytical, and with analyticals, everything has to be proven and numbers and scientific evidence, plus my religious background just frowned upon all of these things called hypnosis. And so I decided if I'm going to get college credit for it, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do this. And so I did. Going in, I was trying to stay as open-minded as possible, but my skepticism, my cynicism, and my belief system just didn't really accept it until, Andrew, and this was the turning point for me. We went on a field trip to one of the most prestigious hospitals here in Los Angeles, and we watched an entire C-section being performed under hypnosis. And we're standing behind the two-way mirror looking at this entire procedure, and everyone knew about it. And at that point, I was pretty much in awe of what was really happening, because there was no drugs, there was no epidural, there was nothing. It was straight hypnosis, the power of the mind. And so we go back to class, and now I'm kind of like accepting it a little bit more. And the first change of behavior that I did in my lifestyle that was plaguing me for many, many years was I was a chronic nail biter. And I couldn't stop no matter what. And so I allowed myself to be hypnotized by another student. I actually stopped that day, and now I'm, of course, not a nail biter. And, of course, I changed many other different yeah, I've changed many other different things in my life from that point forward, and not only have changed things in my life continuously to this day, but I get the honorable, humble position to help people to help themselves with the applications of hypnosis.
I want to ask you, Kevin, this is something that really has always fascinated me. As a person in essentially a psychological, if not psychiatric, mode of treating people hypnotically, I have to ask you, do you believe, what is the reason, you probably can answer this question, what is the reason people repeat destructive behavior patterns? They break up their marriage, they lose jobs. What is the reason for that, and why does it happen? And can people come to terms with that and enact and come about to bring changes in their behavior to get back on track?
Yes, absolutely. That's what the modality of hypnosis does. It helps to facilitate that change. And let me tell you why, from the beginning of your question, why people keep going to the negative behavior. Because that's their scripting. That's how their mind is programmed. Now, Andrew, you have to remember, all behavior is learned behavior. So positive or negative behavior, like some of the things that you just brought up, is negative, but the mind doesn't understand that. You see, it only does what we're programmed to do, like a computer system. And they came up with a magic number back in the 50s when they tested all of this behavioral modalities and how our behavior works as humans, and that magic number is 21. Have you ever heard of the testing with a gentleman of the name of Pavlov and Pavlov's dog?
Yeah, okay, yeah. I don't know this field. The name is familiar to me.
Yeah. So basically, real quick for the listeners and people who are not familiar with the story, basically Pavlov tested the theory and wanted to understand human behavior. So he did it through animals. And how he did that was he took a dog and he basically trained the dog's behavior to not be hungry. Only would the dog salivate and be hungry when he would ring a bell. And so every time he rang the bell, the dog would be hungry and salivate. If he didn't ring the bell, the dog wouldn't know it was hungry, so therefore it wouldn't search for food.
Right.
And so that's basic behavior within our own mind system as well. We have behavior in there that we've learned either intentionally or unintentionally through our subconscious minds, and then it's programmed. And again, like I said, 21 times is generally the magic number that they've come up with to allow that behavior to become a permanence in our mind. So can you visualize, Andrew?
I think I'm beginning to grasp it. I just want to pick up on this. Can you explain? You're doing this work, dealing with people who are trying to come to terms with bringing about a modification of their behavior, which is wrecking them or something.
Right.
For example, some people, I can't help but notice this, Kevin. I'm sure everybody notices after a while. They go about in their choices of mates and boyfriends and girlfriends, whatever they're doing, they choose the wrong people.
Right.
They choose the dirtbags. Do you have an explanation for that?
Yeah, because that's the known behavior. That's what their mind is programmed to do, just like a computer system, like I was explaining earlier. And so that's what they know. So they automatically go there. It's just like your computer. It keeps making the same error until you correct the error and put it into the garbage can and throw it out. Then it redirects itself.
But what causes a person to continually make those mistakes in choosing the wrong people?
The way the mind is hardwired. The way the mind understands information, how it internalizes it, and then how it externalizes it.
Let me give you an example, because I think you got a lot to contribute here, Kevin, and you're enlightening me and bringing me to an understanding of what you do and what you're able to do in your work. Take three political figures. Anthony Weiner, a congressman from New York City, he had a yen, I guess, for underage girls, or it seemed that way. You remember that?
I do.
Okay. For example, and Elliot Spitzer, the governor, also, his particular predilection, I guess, and I'm not criticizing these people. I mean, sexuality is sexuality, and That's it, you know. Spitzer liked hookers or prostitutes. No commitment relationships, I guess you might say, right?
Sure.
So that's what he liked. So how do you explain these destruct mechanisms, these very successful people who had everything to live for, that were going forward on the fast-forward track? Why did they engage in this horrible, put themselves at risk and wreck their entire lives and careers and their families? Why did they do that?
Great question. Great question, Andrew. I can't specifically give the reason why, but I'll definitely give my analysis as to what and why these successful, because in our minds, we look at that and we just go, how do these successful, brilliant minds, these people who've done such good, but then they seem to have this dark side to them, and this dark side seems to take over what they're doing, you know, not only for themselves, but for us. And some of these people you're talking about are, you know, people who are politicians. They work for us. And so they've done great things in their communities, but then they destroy everything with that sabotaging mechanism. Well, it's very simple from my perspective, and again, what hypnosis can and can't do with something. First of all, the first thing in any recovery, Andrew, is to recognize the behavior, either good or bad. And that's the first challenge for all of us. Most people, when we look in the mirror, we don't want to see the negative. We don't want to see the bad. We only want to see the good. And most people, when they look in the mirror, they want to feel good, and they want others to know that they feel good. A lot of people, every single day of our lives, they go out and they want to be accepted and they want to be liked. That's the number one thing with most of our behavior. And so once you start understanding the good and the bad about yourself, then you can actually make the changes. You see, just like hypnosis, people,
Kevin, I'm interested. These people were presumably very talented, intelligent people. They had to know this behavior was putting them at risk for destruction.
Right.
Or maybe they didn't
Somewhere
know.
along the line, Andrew, they picked up this behavior, and then they didn't have any tools to change the behavior, or maybe they didn't even want to recognize the behavior because they're in denial about it. Again, I don't know. I'm not their doctor. I can't diagnose them. But from my point of view, it's real clear. And it's about the subconscious mind and the information that they have in their subconscious mind, which is the dominant part of our brain. It's 88% of our brain's capacity, and that's where that negative information is stored. So it ends up rearing its ugly head at some point. It doesn't, and it has no filter. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how successful you are. It doesn't matter who you've become in our world. It does not matter. All behavior is behavior, good or bad. But we need tools like hypnosis to deprogram that negativity, and this is what you're talking about with these people.
It fascinated me as to why a person. They're intelligent people, right? They're smart people.
Yes.
They're smart people.
Correct.
They got somewhere in life. So why would a smart person do this, which is obviously not a very smart thing to do?
Yeah, let me reframe it for you, Andrew. You're looking at them as what their accolades are, what they have achieved in life, and who they've become. This is the mistake that we make, especially in the world that I work in. My work is with many celebrities and major sports figures, and that's their branding. That's who they've become. And just because they're gifted and talented in that way from God Himself doesn't mean they're perfect people.
Right.
You see, and none of us are perfect. And so you have to understand that we all have deficiencies. And once you understand those deficiencies, you're able to correct those deficiencies. But then again, you need those tools, you see. And so, again...
I see what you're saying now. I better understand how you're explaining this behavior. Do you think it's connected with power? A person has power, and they think they can do this. They feel they wield so much power that they believe that this is something they can do.
That's a great way of looking at it. That's one avenue that one can go down. That's the trappings of power and fame and fortune. Absolutely, that's one of the components, but not the all be all.
But you and I know, probably as well as anybody, Kevin, if we both know that the world doesn't work that way. If you stick your neck out, you very often, not always, but at some point, it will be chopped off.
Well, and that's because
if you engage in behavior such as these people engaged in.
Absolutely. That's God's law. God is the ruler of the universe and of our beings. And so that's Scripture, my friend. And so you can't get around that. You can't deviate from it. There's nobody who is immune from it. It doesn't matter what power you think you have here on earth. The ultimate power is the God himself. So
you're saying that the moral laws or God's laws operate on everybody regardless of their position. If they make this mistake from high to low, they're going to pay for it.
It goes back to Adam and Eve, my friend.
Right.
Absolutely, positively.
Yeah. Okay, so go on. Talk about the celebrities you treat. I want to hear about these people, these sports people. That's really fascinating. And tell me about the results, what the problems were and the results you achieved.
Absolutely. Let's expound a little bit because I think we're leaving our listeners hanging a little bit, Andrew, with why this behavior exists in ourselves, not just the people we've discussed, and not the celebrities I'm going to talk about, because it's all the same. We are all the same people. God gives us different gifts and abilities, Andrew, to allow those things to glorify him on this earth. It's what we do with those things. But in the end of the day, we're all human. So we all have an impediment. And do you know what those impediments are, Andrew?
I really don't, but please tell me.
I know you do, and so do your listeners. It's self-centeredness. It's ego. Okay?
That's the big problem for most people. Ego and pride are the big killers.
They're always the downfalls. Always the downfall. Right? And so let's talk about why these things happen in the mind. Okay? Because that's the information that's in there, and that's what they have. And so it doesn't matter what power you have. It doesn't matter how wealthy you become. It doesn't matter what prestigious title you end up having in life. If you don't come to terms with the demons inside of you, with the negatives that are plaguing you, the sabotaging mechanisms that you've had or acquired at some point, then, and if you don't have those tools, then you're going to fail. It's going to be exposed no matter what. You can hide it, but you can't hide from it. Again.
Let me ask you this. Following up on that, some people, if they get a power position, not everybody, if they're smart, they don't do this, but they will sort of push the people under them around a bit.
Sure.
What about that? You and I know that's a mistake.
Well, that's a sense of hiding. It's putting a Band-Aid on a situation. It's prolonging what's the inevitable. Absolutely. You see, again, Andrew, you cannot hide from your sin. Again, we go back to Adam and Eve. Your sin will expose you at some point. That's it. End of story. No one is immune. That's just what ends up happening. I don't care how smart you think you are.
Nobody can really hide from themselves.
No, absolutely not. Your sin will expose you. End of story.
Well, that's
and you can prolong that.
So tell me a little about what you've been doing with various people so I can see the great work you've been doing in terms of bringing behavior modifications and helping people.
And I love that.
That's really helping people.
And again, it's really not me, Andrew, and this is what I try to explain to people with hypnosis. All hypnosis is really self-hypnosis. We go in and out of hypnosis about 1,000 times a day. It's how natural state it really is. Common forms of hypnosis, what I like to call freeway hypnosis, highway hypnosis. When you're up on the freeway, highway, you're driving along. Some of your listeners are doing that right now. They're listening to this program. Their hair is blowing out the window. They're feeling good. They get a big smile on their face, arm out the window, and then they realize their exit is 3 exits back somewhere. As a matter of fact, some people, it just happened to them right now, right? That's a common form of hypnosis. Childbirth, yoga, karate, watching a good movie, reading a good book, listening intently to this program. This is all hypnosis. And the question is why? Because it's a higher awareness state. It's a focused, concentrated state. Runners call it a runner's high. Athletes call it the zone. And so everybody has a title for it. But hypnosis is what it truly is. And that's how natural and environmental it really is. So,
let me get a sense if you could answer this question, Kevin. How long does it take through your therapy, your hypnotic therapy, to bring the person to terms with the problem and bring them to a solution? How long does that take?
excellent question. Now, I'll give you examples. I've done smokers, 40-year smokers, 2.5 packs a day, Camel non-filters, one session. The same person coming in with the same presenting issue, it could take up to 6 sessions. So it really depends on the individual and how they allow the applications of the guided hypnosis to work on themselves. Mm-hmm. So it could take anywhere between 1 and 6 with most issues. It could take up to 12 with a weight loss individual, but it really depends on the individual, because that's a common question I get every single day in my clinic, where they call up and they go, I want to try hypnosis. First of all, you don't want to try anything. You just want to do it and be open to it. That's number one. Number two, then they ask, how many sessions is it going to take? I don't have an answer for you. I can't have an answer until I actually hypnotize you for the first time. Once I'm able to hypnotize you, they can tell you, oh, it's going to take 3. Oh, it's going to take 1. Oh, it's going to take 5. I don't know. Like anything else, I have to make a diagnosis to see where and what level you go into with hypnosis, and then I'm able to say, well, that's it. It was 1 session today for Smokey. Thank you very much, and that's it. You're done. You're now a non-smoker. Or nail
Let me give you
or
an
whatever
example,
it is,
Kevin. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Or addiction,
well,
whatever it is.
I'm going to just project this issue. Everybody in this world, you know and I know, at some level are looking for love. I think so.
Yes.
They are.
Well,
you agree?
Absolute. That's absolute.
But I see this all the time. I live in an area of New York City where there's a huge number of bars, okay?
Bars,
which is fine.
like regular bars?
I personally don't. It's just bars, meet up places, I guess.
Okay, yeah, bars.
Bar
yeah,
ages.
Right.
Yeah,
drinking establishments, yeah, I got you.
Yeah, so all I'm saying is I see these 19, 20, 21 years going in there, and I say to myself, who are you going to... I'm not saying there's anything bad about people who go to a bar, Kevin. I don't say that. I'm not making a judgment. But it's not the place to meet someone. Do they want to meet someone? Or are they looking for something... Are they looking for marriage? Or do they simply want to meet someone on a temporary basis? What are they going to gain by going to a bar? I don't see any profit in it.
Well, maybe you don't, but in defense of people who do that, and probably some of the listeners right now who frequent bars daily, I know in our culture it's got that stigma of that stereotype to it. But people go to bars in the UK and drinking countries like that. That's fact of life. That's just part of their lifestyle.
It is, but I'm saying there is a group of people, or there are bars which function to offer to people to meet the right person or someone.
Well, if that's how they function and that's what they're putting out there in their advertisements, then I would think that then anybody who is going to take a shot at that is more than welcome to do so. Whether or not it works for them, I can't say, but I can guarantee you, we could get callers to call in now, and there'd be a 50-50 split on this of the ones who say, yeah, I found love in the bar, and the others are like, still stuck in the stereotype.
Are they looking for love, or are they looking for sex?
Well, I can't say, because, again, I can't judge an individual's I can't judge what an individual's motive is.
I'm not making a judgment on it. I mean, it's fine. When I say talks about bars, I did not mean it as a criticism. I meant it as an observation of what I saw or I see. If you want to meet someone, Kevin, if you want to meet someone and fall in love with someone, that's not the place to do it.
Well, that's your opinion, Andrew, and you're absolutely entitled to it. But I would think there would be many people who would not agree with that.
You don't think so?
Theory. I think that again, I grew up I grew up with that thinking. That was ingrained into me as well as a young man, and I don't have a judgment on it either way or a thought on it either way. I think, again, when you're ready to receive love in the way that you want it, you can find it in a bar or any, seedy place or great place. It doesn't really matter. I think when the mind and your body is ready to receive, it will get that. And that's the same thing with the
so. I'm listening to what you're saying. It may be so. I didn't think that was true, but I guess it could be true that you could meet the love of your life anywhere. That's true.
Absolute.
Right.
You have to remember this, Andrew. Whatever you put out will come back, right? It's the law of the universe. It's a law of reciprocation.
Yes, that's
so
true.
If I go to a bar and I want to receive love, then I'm gonna get that.
But then you're assuming that other person has come to the bar with that in mind, and you're thinking will be entirely different from that other person's.
I'm a believer of what I put out, I'm going to receive. So yes, with the law of reciprocation, I'm going to receive a person on the same level as I'm operating at, because that's what God is going to give me. Absolutely.
Well, I see what you're saying. I'm not sure I entirely agree with it, because I think people are very different in their goals and thinking.
Absolutely.
There is, some people do want to fall in love and get married, but not everybody.
No, but again, it depends on what one's motive is to, go into an establishment like that. I wouldn't know, because it's not something I've ever done or even considered or thought about. But to me, again, it comes down to the simplicity. It's like praying. What you pray for, God is going to give you. He may not give it to you right away. He's going to give it to you on his own timing. But what you put out, Andrew, you're going to get back.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Be careful of what you ask for.
You're raising my consciousness on this issue. I see your point. Yes, you are. So I see your point. But maybe I'm stereotyping people who go to bars. I'm incorrectly stereotyping.
I believe that could be a bit of it as well. But again, my point is my point. And why do I say these things? I'm not here to prove something right or wrong. I'm telling you from my own life experiences, my own spirituality, my own relationship with Christ, of where I'm centered and where I'm at in life. And I like to share that with people to have them access that power that I have. Because you see, we all have that ability to do that. It's not exclusive to.
What are you? Tell me a little about the people you have hypnotized and the specific problems you have solved. Give our audience a little insight into that. You sound like you've really done some great work there. So why don't you talk about some specific examples?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I don't solve anything. Everyone solves things on their own. I'm the guide. I'm the facilitator. I'm the person that God has gifted with certain gifts and abilities like everyone else, and I've understood those from a very young age as to what God has given me in my life to help others to help themselves. And so the things that I've helped people to overcome, addiction, smoking, weight loss, pain management is one of my specialties here in Los Angeles. I'm on several prestigious hospitals on staff here in Los Angeles because of the work that I do with pain management. I can go on and on. Whatever you think about in life that you want to change from a negative to a positive, I've helped others to help themselves to achieve those goals.
Have you ever treated sex therapy, say people who go from one person to another, a new person every week? Have you treated that problem?
Absolutely. Because that's also categorized as an addiction. And I have done that and helped people to succeed where they stay with one partner and they understand the benefits of that.
So you have brought about that kind of modification from going from person to person, which actually is quite common in our society today, I think. I mean, for some people, not everybody, but some people do it. No?
Yeah.
They do.
The morals, the value system in our society and in the world has digressed tremendously in the years that I've been here on living on this planet and watched it. And the older I get, the more it digresses, and it's a very sad state of affairs. But it's all predicted. It's all, again, look at the book of Revelations and Genesis, and the information's right there for us. So it's not a surprise to me, because God has already given me the information as to what is going to happen with our society and our world.
Well, there's no question. Yes, actually, I agree with you. My life, I can only say that I'm aware of my sin and failings, and I consider myself lucky that I'm forgiven. You know, I don't think I'm anything great. You know,
Amen.
but it's the issue. Our society. Let me put it this way, Kevin. The church, or you want it for one, I don't know if that's the right word, or religious belief, had more of a connection in the past with the society. It was harder to get a divorce. Maybe people didn't live together so much. Right. But that has ended, correct?
I think it's going through a cycle. Everything is cyclical, Andrew, and I think it's going through a cycle. And I think that the church and the body, again, is going through that cycle. But again, it's all predicted. It's all right there in the Bible. And so for me, I already know what is coming and how it's coming, because God has told me so. So it takes away that stress, that anxiety, that unknown for me, because that's where I derive my power from. You see, that's where my centeredness comes from, my peace comes from. It's the fruit of the Spirit.
Do you believe that the millennials, the young people, I know your age, maybe you are a millennial, Kevin, it could be, but do you believe they're not seen today as adhering to any religious Christianity particularly? I don't think so.
No,
they're not.
They're very liberal, and they have no boundary. They have no rule. They're very sensitive, and I could say a lot. I could talk a lot about that, but that's not our topic.
So you're really saying they have what it's really come down to? I don't get your feelings about this, and maybe you could give me views. In a sense, there's no objective moral rules which are present in most people's thinking or mind in today's world, in the West.
There's no foundation of spirituality, and that's where you get all of those governing rules. And it's not worldly rules, it's God's governing body. And so they have no concept of this, nor do they want to have a concept of it.
Well, then, but do you think that someday for example, many people do not read the Bible anymore? No?
I would say that's probably a high factor, yes.
So if you don't read the biblical text in Revelation, you're not going to know about a great deal about some things.
I would agree wholeheartedly. Absolutely. You're preaching to the choir, my friend.
I mean, take something. That's why people don't want to come to our society. I've done blogs on this. Here you saw him. Doesn't want to come to terms with Jesus particularly.
No,
but he does
absolutely.
say things that are very, very disturbing, and perhaps we should be looked into, like saying the poor are blessed. Nobody's ever made a statement like that. Why is it great being poor? But he says that. He makes it a clear statement in that respect.
Right.
He does. He says,
I
don't
agree
get poor. You know.
Yes.
So, that, but if you don't know that as to why he's saying that and what he's driving at.
Right, you have to understand the context.
Yeah.
Right? You can't take it out of context. It doesn't literally mean poor. It could be, but again, that's not what Scripture is talking about, Andrew.
Right.
And so you have to keep it within context. And here's the other mistake that people do. They quote a lot of biblical Scripture. Sports is very famous for quoting John, and you hear these things all of the time, but people don't understand. You have to read within context of Scripture. You have to read before the lines before that particular passage and the lines after that particular passage to get the full effect of what Christ is saying about the context of biblical sayings.
Yeah, I agree with you that it has to be taken, interpreted, and put in context with what comes before and after. You're right about that. But I don't think I'm prepared to change my view that he made those specific statements in the Beatitudes about, he did say that blessed are the poor and poor in spirit. He said they were going to inherit the kingdom of God. He made an unequivocal statement in that respect, but if you feel that it's, and I say that the world does not really come to terms with it particularly. If people want to get rich, Kevin. They want material goods. They don't see the point in getting to be poor. Or then poor people. He doesn't say you should be poor. He says they're blessed.
Right.
So obviously the society is not going to agree with that.
Well, because again, that's worldly thinking, and when you only think in worldly terms, you end up exposing your sin, like we talked about in the beginning of this program, and why that sabotaging mechanism exposes itself. Again, let's go back to original sin, Adam and Eve, okay? Right. And so you're not going to escape it. Your challenge is every day is to, again, stay in the Word, glorify God every single day. So therefore, you don't allow the enemy to allow you to succumb to temptation or to sin, because we sin every single day. Just the thought.
No question about it. Every day I think about myself solely as opposed to having concern for other people. I'm embedded in sin.
Absolutely.
No question about it.
Absolutely, Andrew. Absolute. So you see, this is how, now we'll transition back over into hypnosis, why hypnosis can help keep you focused, just like prayer. Prayer keeps you focused. Why? Because you're speaking with the Lord, and the Lord is directing your path. Well, hypnosis is a natural organic process that does the same thing. It's parallel. And how it does that is you get to reprogram the negatives that we deal with as a human being every single day and reprogram them to be positives, to redirect our path, to allow ourselves to achieve the goals that we're looking to aspire to in our daily lives.
Do you, for example, you've raised a very interesting issue. I don't want to go into it because this program is about your work in hypnosis, and that's the focus of it, and I'm really fascinated by it. But the fact of the matter is many people in the world are not familiar with the biblical revelation or content of sin. They don't see the world as our way.
No, they don't.
Actually, they may actually feel that most people are good as well as themselves.
Correct, because they don't understand exactly what you just said, and they don't understand the context and the concept of what sin really is and how it's in our everyday lives. Absolutely.
Well, I don't want to take up this with a theological discussion because we're here to talk about your work in hypnosis. Tell me about your latest work in hypnosis, the latest person you've hypnotized and what you did.
Latest person was pain management, where we had a woman with a very severe pain in her shoulder, and she had been to every specialist in the world. She had been on every medication and drug that you can imagine. She was a very wealthy woman, and she went to everybody in the world, everybody, and I mean everybody. She heard about my work. She discovered me. She asked if she could come out. She was from Connecticut. And I said, absolutely. She set up the time, and we blocked out 6 sessions with her. We didn't take 6 sessions to accomplish the goal, but we did that, and she came out, basically hypnotized her, and removed the pain from her shoulder.
That's great.
Through the applications of hypnosis.
Now, when you hypnotize people, Kevin, when they become hypnotized, are you able to talk to them?
That's what hypnosis is. Hypnosis is not like you see in a movie or television, and they sensationalize how this stuff works. How it does work is through words, Andrew, and how you put the words together and how the mind receives that information.
When
so I'll give you a little.
Hypnotize them, and do you talk to them? Do you try in the conversation? Is there a conversation, for example?
not necessarily, I wouldn't say a conversation, but it's a sentence structure and a pattern that is done to facilitate how the mind receives the information. And so I'll give you a little secret. All advertisers do the same thing. They use the natural resource of suggestion, and they put that together to appeal to people's emotions, senses, all of their senses, and that's how it works. So they're actually doing hypnosis as well.
Do you hypnotize people with the problem of anger? If
Yes.
a person yells at people, some people, I've seen this. Look, I've done it myself from time to time, and none of us are perfect. But what about people who yell at other people? Have you handled that difficulty? Or angry, or they yell at people, or they get into fights? That's another thing. Do you handle that kind of behavior pattern, getting into fights all the time?
Yeah, the irony is just before we got on this phone call together, I just got off of a phone call with a person who had called me, and they want to work on, because their 2-year relationship is suffering from their anger outbursts, and especially when they start to drink, it magnifies itself. And she had heard about me through something else, and she called me and asked me if I could work with this. And I said, absolutely, positively. I've been doing it for 25 years. So the irony is, great question, Andrew, because that was the phone call I got off just before I got on air with you. Yeah, and that was the issues, because it's affecting the 2-year relationship, and they're now getting ready to get married, and it's becoming a problem because her anger and her outburst and her emotions are getting the best of what's happening, and of course this puts a heavy weight on the relationship. So she wants to be able to fix it, and because she loves this person, and they want to be able to make it work.
Do you hypnotize couples, married couples?
Absolutely. Yes. I even hypnotize children all the way down to the age of 5.
Really? That's fantastic.
Yes.
I love children. How do you deal? I love talking to kids. They have so much to say and offer. I think so. But what do you do with the kids, a 5-year-old? How do they relate to you? I'm just interested.
Well, again, I find what language pattern they understand and how they receive information. Once I'm able to do that through through a few testing procedures that I do to get them hypnotized, then I can understand how their mind processes information. Once I understand the language of that, Andrew, then I can talk to their mind. It's not about the age. It's about how I'm able to talk to their mind and reprogram their mind. Because, you see, we all talk through our mind every single day. Mm-hmm. We have that little voice inside of our head that we think is directing and redirecting us. And sometimes it's negative, sometimes it's cynical, sometimes it's positive. But that's that little voice. And so that voice, if we just listen to it sometimes, we'd be okay. But most of the times we're talking ourselves out of situations. And that voice really doesn't direct us. That's our critical factor voice that's talking to our mind. And it's not necessarily always a good thing. And so that's why you hire a professional like myself, a hypnotist or a hypnotherapist, and they come in and they're able to speak to your mind directly, just like a computer programmer. And I don't know about you, Andrew. I work on computers all day long. But when something happens to that computer, I'm not able to fix it. I need to call the specialist. And so it's the same thing in my work.
I have my own computer too, but I have a sister who helps me. Let me ask you this, Kevin. I want to get a sense from this. Two things I want to know. A 5-year-old who you hypnotize, I think, I'm not sure, they're innocent. Their minds are completely different in what they understand from an adult. They're innocent.
Correct.
Yep, so
they're very pure.
What?
They're very pure. Children are pure. They're innocent.
Yeah, they have no. They just not. They don't have the defenses. One thing
no filters.
They're not defensive.
Right. No filters, and they just do and be. Correct.
So how do you handle a kid, a 4 or 5-year-old, as opposed to an adult? How do you approach the hypnotizing?
It's not very different. It's not very different, Andrew, because in theory, we're still children. I don't know how old you are, what generation you are. It doesn't matter,
right.
because our minds, it's how the mind is developed. So
Right.
it doesn't matter what the body age is. It's what our mind age is. And so in theory, we're all children. All of us. I've seen, 50-year-old people act like,
I'm
9-year-olds.
So you think that that children. I agree with you that it's not a matter of age. It really isn't. You can talk to a child as just as effectively in conversing as with an adult. Maybe better.
Absolutely.
Maybe better. So let me ask you this. What about the difference between hypnotizing a male and female? Do you think there are different approaches and problems in hypnotizing a female?
I wouldn't say problems, but there is different approaches because, again, the way the female mind thinks and the way the male mind thinks. But it isn't that different. It really depends. It doesn't matter. There's no sex here. It doesn't matter male, female, animal. It doesn't matter. It matters what the mind is doing. And so once I understand, is it right brain, is it left brain, and then I proceed to actually speak to the mind and how it needs to be spoken to.
So you don't think that, I'm not making a sexual stereotype because I'm not sure what's true or what's false in this respect. Personally, I don't think there's any difference in thinking between men and women, but I think in certain respects women think differently, in certain ways.
Well, in theory, and this is scientific, this isn't me, women are emotionally based, men are logically based. And so that's maybe the different perspective, but in the end of the day, we all have the same brain. And it's the same brain in animals. Remember about Pavlov's dog?
But do you think that female behavior is cultural rather than genetic? That is the way our society wants to form with them in our society?
Absolutely. All behavior is formed that way.
Don't you think men want to see women in that way in their relationships? They want to see them as feminine. They want to see them as soft. They want to see them as mothers. Don't you think men kind of push this on women?
All of our behavior is cultural, and that's where it's based from. So if you could be in the remote woods of Africa, and the way that culture is set up doesn't necessarily coincide with how we think here in America. So we can't determine right or wrong. That's just culturally how one is brought up. And so, yes, it does have a huge factor into behavior until, again, just like a negative behavior, you have to recognize it. The first step in any recovery is recognizing, then you're able to access the tools to fix it, to achieve the goals of what you want.
Let me put this in front of you, Kevin. This is a world which, to some extent, is changing, which is kind of run by men to some degree. It's changing, but I think it's still to some extent true, no? So don't you think women have this, it's not a problem exactly, they know to get through this system, they have to function with men in a certain way. Men want to see women as feminine, correct?
Well, I can't agree.
They don't. I think most men don't like an aggressive. Maybe some they do. I don't know, but I think it's a fair statement that the world men don't particularly value that quality in women: masculinity, aggressiveness. No.
Well, again, I think that's how our society is programmed stereotypically, and I have to agree that that's what that is. And I think it's changed tremendously with women gaining their own and showing their own and having their own power. And I think it's very intimidating to men, absolutely, because our world is not ready for that. They just don't understand the concept of why. And so, because again, the philosophy and how we were brought up, that's old school thinking, absolutely.
So it's changing, probably for the better, but that people can be more themselves than they don't have to adhere to any stereotype. But I say this, that women, I think they face, it's hard being a woman because they have to wade through this male-dominated system.
Correct, and they've been doing that for years. I mean, that's been going on for centuries. And so, again, trace history. History is where you want to find all your answers. They're right there, and everything is cyclical. And so we're not experiencing anything different than, people experienced in the 1800s, 1700s, BC, AD. It's all the same.
Right. Now, personally, I think it's better for everybody that people are able to not be stereotyped and not be pressured into some kind of images that other people. I don't want to be made in an image of some expectation that somebody has for me. But
right.
in many instances, that's the way the world works. It works on people. When we have a job, we have to fulfill the expectations of the boss, right? To be that boss may want someone who's subservient, no?
Absolutely, but that's what you signed up for. I mean, if you're going to take that position, then you should know what you're getting into instead of getting caught by surprise and going, "Oh, I'm the victim." No, you have to know.
But there's a good chance in many jobs you're going to have to kowtow. No.
Well, of course, there's the chain of command, Andrew, and that's just again how the system works. Again, I didn't make up the system. That's God Himself. But if you understand it, then you don't have any stress or pressure or anxiety about it.
No, I'm just
saying
that we all are sort of be put into position in society of fulfilling other people's expectations. It could be the person you're married to. It could be your boss in the job. It could be if you're on in some sports team, the people in that may have some expectation. I'm just saying.
My suggestions with that is know what you're getting into. Do your research. Understand what you're, again, giving up your time and your free will and what you're getting involved with. It's your choice. We all have choices. That's what God gives us free will for, because we have that gift. We have that ability. So therefore, you better do your homework.
Doesn't He want people to be free agents? I'm not saying He wants people to sin, but He wants a free and freedom-based relationship. He doesn't want robots.
No, absolutely
not. I don't think so. No, He doesn't.
No, it's not about robots. No. Nope.
So I think it's better that society make more room for personalities and different kinds of people, men or women or children, whoever they are.
Well, there should be more allowance than stop judging. Absolutely. That's, again, sin where people judge unrighteously. And so, therefore, this is why it creates a conflict and an issue in our world. And so it has to be understood.
Well, that's why Jesus says you're not supposed to judge, because He says God's going to judge us. And we don't want to be judged as harshly, maybe as we tend to judge other people.
Amen. And that's what we're to do, is we're to love.
That's right, not to make judgments. And the ultimate answer is, as Jesus says there, that God is going to judge us, and that judgment will be on the basis of our judging the toughness of our judgment on other people, which He doesn't recommend particularly. Exactly. Well, do you have, or just about ready to end? I've enjoyed the conversation. Do you have what are your goals in the future? What are your goals? Where do you see yourself going, Kevin?
Well, I'm gonna wrap it up with this. I'm gonna give some words of wisdom that I've learned over the years, and not only the years of me personally, but the 25 years that I've been working in the field of hypnotherapy and helping
25 years. You must be really knowledgeable.
I would think I have a lot of wisdom. God has given me a great gift in wisdom, and I'm very humbled by it. And again, I love to share that with the world and people. And so they can go to my website, which is hypnotist.com, and learn a lot more information about hypnosis, the application. If they want to email me personally, they can do so. I'd be more than happy to help anybody who wants to help themselves, and I'll give them and equip them with those tools. But I want to leave you with this, Andrew.
Okay, go ahead.
These are the words of wisdom that I've come to terms with. And, one of the most powerful abilities, and we talked about this earlier in our program today, one of the most powerful abilities that we have to give is love. And everyone is looking for their purpose. Many, many people ask me, how Kevin, how was I able to find my purpose? Why are you so successful? What is it about you that makes you different? And my success formula is so simple, it's so rudimentary, and this is what I want to share. It's love God. your family, the church, your country, and your work. And my purpose and my mission, Andrew, in life at any given time is to make the lives of everyone around me better. And if you're not doing that, you will find your purpose and your happiness. And we can show love at any time. Love conquers all.
Well, of course, Jesus raised the moral bar in this respect. He said not merely to he does say to us, he says to us, it's easy to love people that are good looking. It's easy to love people that are nice. It's easy to love people like that. But he says, love your enemies.
Love all. Love conquers all, my friend.
So it's very easy to love the kind of people, for example, good-looking people.
Right.
A lot of people, that's what they go for, don't they?
Absolutely. That's the trappings.
Yeah. But so as I say, I mean, but he says, pray for those who persecute you and love your enemies. He raises the concept of love to another level. I think he
Amen.
does. Who is worthy of love, who we should love.
That's right.
Okay. It was good talking to you, Kevin. I enjoyed it. We share a lot of the vision that I know you share with me, and I thought that you were an excellent guest. I learned a lot from you in various things. For example, on that discussion we had about bars, I've rethought my position on that issue. I now see that you could meet a person that you could fall in love with anywhere. It's true.
Sure. Absolutely.
And therefore, I was making maybe a stereotypical judgment on bars. I shouldn't have done it.
Well,
I learned that from you, and as well as the things we talked about. And I think you're doing great work. I think that you are combining your religious belief with your work. And as you said, by the way, in terms of love, let me ask you this 1 second to get your thoughts on this. Most people, when they think about love, they're thinking about other people loving them, correct?
Most of the time.
But that's not love. Love is when you can give love to other people. Not take it.
That's the purity. Right. Follow the example of Jesus. Absolutely.
Right. So I think that's the issue in love. Many people love is what people are going to do for me, I suppose. Not for me, but do with me in terms of what I want in terms of love. But love, I think, is more exactly to be defined as what love we can give to other people, whoever they may be.
Follow the example of the Lord. The reason we're here, Andrew, is to glorify God, and we can only do that through love.
Yes, it's true, Kevin. Okay, I really enjoyed the conversation. I thought it was enlightening. I thought it was stimulating. I was happy to have you on, and I'll be posting this in a day or so, and hopefully a lot of people are going to listen to it. I'm sure they will.
I love it. I'm humbled by the experience. I appreciate the opportunity. And like I said, anybody wants to get a hold of me, go to my website, hypnotist.com.
What's your email? Say your email, so in case anybody wants to get in touch with you.
It's right there on the website, too. I'll give you the email.
Give your website email out.
Yeah, website again, www.hypnotist, hypnotist.com. Hollywood Hypnotist Kevin Stone at gmail.com is where you can reach me, or right through the website. You can email me directly from there.
All right, Kevin, I'm glad I got to know you. I think we have many things we agree about. Well, that isn't the issue.
Amen, my brother.
Okay, brother, but I thought you had a lot to say. All right, I'll talk to you later, guy. All right?
Yep, thank you so much.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.